conversation today, so I wanted you to all be aware of that before we got started. Jose, anything else we need to tell people before we get started?
No, other than if you could just keep the voices down when you're not speaking, so that way we can be sure to capture all the audio.
Thank you very much. So this morning's presentation, Digital Badges and Learning Registry, Sharing What We Know. It's an exciting collaboration, an exciting intersection between two different initiatives going on right now, between the English Learner Integrated Action Team and the English Learner Support Division. And I know we have some people from those two groups here with us today. And also the Superintendent's Education Technology Task Force and our Educational Data Management Division have come together with some ideas through their work and discuss opportunities to help our local education agencies in serving our English learners and all students through some of these technologies. And before I introduce our presenters so we can learn about digital badges and the Learning Registry, I want to acknowledge some of our guests who are also here to help provide some of their expertise and contribute to the conversation. First, Mike Lawrence, who is a member of the Education Technology Task Force. He's the Executive Director of Computer Using Educators, a member of the ITSE Board of Directors, and does a lot of great work in this area. So, Mike, thank you for joining us today. Dr. Christine Olmsted is the Assistant Superintendent in the Division of Instructional Services at the Orange County Office of Education. And from the Mozilla Foundation, we are joined by Carla Casilli, and who is the project lead on the Open Badges project, and Sunny Lee, who is the Open Badges project department manager. So thank you also for joining us today. Our presenter today is Steve Midgley, who is a consulting principal at Registry-1, which is a consulting firm for a range of projects and organizations that provides expertise on technology, strategy, planning, management, facilitation, financial forecasting, and implementation. His work focuses on developing technology systems grounded in the values of transparency, flexibility, and community. He is now a consulting advisor to the U.S. Department of Education in a part-time capacity, helping to further the work of the Learning Registry, Race to the Top, and the Race to the Top assessment. Prior to transitioning to this consulting role, he was a special assistant to the Secretary of Education, acting as a Deputy Director of Education Technology. Today he's going to share information on the technology-driven transition, this education transition from print-based to technology-driven learning environments, and he's going to talk about a project that he initiated called the Learning Registry. Steve has also held a position with the Director of Education for the National Broadband Plan developed by the FCC, and he has consulted with the Department of Education here in California on the development and implementation of the Brokers of Expertise project. And another project we are going to hear about today is, as part of this conversation, is Mozilla's Open Badge project and the adoption of digital badges as a possible alternative assessment of student learning. Through Steve's collaboration with Mozilla on digital badges, the Education Technology Task Force Assessment Work Group members have become much more familiar with digital badges, and I might add much more excited about digital badges, and have decided to position this opportunity as a recommendation for the state to consider when developing comprehensive assessment information on student learning. It's one of the great examples of the types of conversations that we can have, and we know that students react to this type of feedback because we adults react to that type of feedback. I've told a few of you that last night I walked down the street and back because I was only at 15,900 steps, and if I got to 10,000, Fitbit would give me a badge for doing 10,000 steps yesterday. So even for adults, these can be very valuable. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Steve for the presentation.
Thank you. Definitely looking forward to this conversation, and I hope that it will be a conversation both in the dialogue right now as I present some concepts. Feel free to jump in. I think this is going to be more productive where we get clarification, or if I'm jumping over or skipping a step, you clarify. Thanks, Craig, for the introduction. Thanks to Jose, Michelle, and others for inviting me here, and it's been definitely a pleasure to participate in the Education Technology Task Force work, as well as wherever I have the opportunity to work with the California Department of Ed. I also want to mention that Carla will be giving some remarks about the badge project as well, so it'll be a bit of a tag team up here. So I'm just going to go through Learning Registry as a concept first, and then we'll dig into badges, and then hopefully have time for a collaborative discussion towards the end of the time. So the two things, as Craig alluded to or mentioned very clearly, Learning Registry, which I would tag as sharing what we know, and digital badges as tracking what we've learned. So this is not an endorsed tagline, I made this up, but for Mozilla, I can make things up for the Learning Registry since I run that project, but digital badges, something I'm very excited about. I think there's a lot of opportunities, but I think we all want to not undersell, but not oversell what it is so that we understand where it's appropriate, what it does, what it replaces, what it doesn't replace, because it is not a all-in solution, right? There's a number of people working on assessment technology and assessment instruments and those sorts of things. We can talk about how badges can be fit together with those concepts as well. So first on the Learning Registry, I would talk about the impending Common Core resource desert. So we are here in California, among many other states, switching to Common Core. I had a meeting in Oakland. Tom will know a fair bit about this problem. They have books from 2002, and they don't plan an adoption until 2016. So they're going to be using standards-aligned materials to the California standards to teach Common Core and have high marks on an SBAC measurement. This is a dilemma, right? This is not something that we can just sort of say, well, it'll work itself out, right? I think we all are paying attention to this. Now, it would be great if the next slide I showed you how to fix that, right? Because I don't have that slide. This is a hard problem. But I've been working, just so you understand why I'm working on this, I'm working on this problem because of this issue, right? We don't have access to enough of the new materials, the new resources as we need. And so there's going to have to be some melding of old content with new content, digital content, print content. There's going to be a lot of different components here that are going to fit together. And Learning Registry is essentially, you can think of it as something like a clutch plate to try to allow us to fit together some of these different pieces. It is not in and of itself going to create any content. It's not going to solve any particular problem. Just like email doesn't solve a problem, it enables you to solve problems. And I think you'll hear the conversation that we'll have both about badges and Learning Registry. These are tools that help us solve problems in the digital space. They are not solutions in themselves. They have to be deployed correctly. So I've had a lot of caveats like that, but they are still useful, and we should take a good look at how to deal with them. There's also other emerging multi-state curricular standards. I think we'll see some science standards come out. There may be other collaborative standards that are adopted. ISTE certainly has some technology standards that may be useful. And so this is not just about Common Core, but of course I think a lot of us are focused on Common Core. As you would well know, there's a lot of investment in aligning web-based digital content. CLearn is a good example. In California, Brokers of Expertise has some traction of connecting content in the digital space to now Common Core. In the race to the top states, if I had had any influence, I would have exerted it, but California did not win. But the race to the top states that I am working with are investing large amounts of money into alignment of Common Core. And so my question is, why does that have to stay in that state, right? That's impractical. Why would we not want that information if it's useful and they're actually spending green dollars on it, whereas in California we're doing a lot of creative financing, right, to get education moving forward, right? This is a tough time. We need to leverage all of these pieces. If people are spending real money somewhere to solve a problem, we shouldn't have to solve it again here. We should be able to leverage what they've done. So that's another way.